Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. I am Follygon and tonight we're going to be sculpting something new. So last Tuesday, we were sculpting around on this cool boy here. And tonight we're going to be working on something that I started over on my Twitch channel. So let's see, yesterday, I believe, or no, I'm sorry, not yesterday. Sometime last week, we spent a couple hours kind of blocking out this little pup guy. And then this morning on the stream, I took it a little bit further, started adding some poly paint, started kind of blocking out the limbs and the tail and everything else, and kind of taking the face to a more finished look. And the 2D concept, I should mention as well, right here, is by Lily BZ over on DeviantArt. You can find her. It is LILIBZ over on DeviantArt. Again, go check her out. She's got some really cool stuff. If you guys are looking for things that would be really cool to sculpt in ZBrush, I think she's got some really cool stylized stuff. Other than that, let's just make sure that our chat is working here and everything else. I have a new chat app that I've not used before. And let's just make sure that we are streaming. Ramsey over on Facebook, what is going on? Okay, thank you for letting me know that the chat app is working. Appreciate that. And boom, let's go ahead and get started, guys. So again, 2D concept, Lily BZ, I am Follygon. This is the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. If you've never been here before, go ahead and click that follow button down below. And let's get ready to ZBrush. Alright, cool. I believe we are all set. So, some of the last things that I did to this dude over on my channel, which again, just Google Follygon and you can find all my stuff. I was working on some of the teeth, some of the gums, just kind of getting that integrated and dynameshed in. I haven't done too much else with that since then. But typically what I like to do when I jump back on something like this is do kind of like a once-over pass, make sure everything is as close as I can get it to the original reference. And right now, there's a few things that are just kind of standing out to me. So let's take some time and make as many kind of just small or big corrections really to kind of push this to the next level. Typically what happens, at least for me, I think this is pretty true for everybody, but the more you kind of work on something over a long period of time, the more you get used to just kind of staring at it and you get used to your mistakes. So what I find is very helpful is to kind of, whether it's intentional or not, take a little bit of a break, go do something else, maybe go eat lunch, you know, whatever you gotta do with the rest of your day. And then come back and try to maybe take a screenshot, throw it in Photoshop or something like that. Mark off as many little changes that you want to make as possible. Or, you know, on a notepad, write down as many different changes as you can think to make. Typically what I do is I just come in here in ZBrush and immediately get sculpting. But I find it helpful to do screenshots in Photoshop as well and kind of like redline myself. But yeah, it just gives you an opportunity to, you know, take a little rest for your eyes and then come back with fresh pair and make all those changes that need to be made. Oh, that was some nice nightmare fuel there. Alright, so I think there's maybe some scale issues up here in the face that I want to correct. I'm not entirely sure where the issue lies right now. It's just something that I'm kind of noticing here right now that I want to try fixing. It's kind of a subtle thing. I'm not sure if it's like a scale issue. Let's see. There's definitely some stuff that I want to change underneath the jaw. Because right now, this shape, just wrapping back, feels very undefined, or maybe even unrefined to me. And based on what I'm seeing in the concept, I think that's going to be a little bit more of a flat flowing back. So that's definitely something I want to capture. So let's see. Let's grab our transpose line and pull up on that a little bit. Just to make that volume feel a little bit closer to what I'm seeing there. Aries, what's going on, man? Welcome back. Aries was hanging out over on my stream earlier today. Let's see. Let's kind of take some of this back a little bit. Just getting to be a little bit much. Find it nice to do all these kind of quick changes in Transpose Master, which is pretty quick and easy to do. You know what? Just the alignment here from the profile with this head. Might want to pull that forward a little bit. He's going to be laying on his back, right? So we'll have to figure that out a little bit more once we get to that part. You know what else is really kind of sticking out to me now that I'm looking at this a little bit more? I think proportionally, the head could be quite a bit larger. I'm looking at this cheek hit coming down. If we were to draw a straight line coming down from that cheek, from that side, compared to the width of the body, I think there's quite a big difference there. So let's go a little bit larger than we probably even need. One thing that I find sculpturally that happens a lot, especially on human characters, but probably true in pup sharks as well, is that people tend to make heads too small. Heads and hands always end up a little bit too small. So I find it useful during the sculpting process, if you make the head a little bit bigger than you think it needs to be, by the end of the process, somehow it typically turns out to be just right. And if you need to make it smaller, probably won't be by much. Let's T-pose back so we can see how all these changes are looking with our poly paint and everything else on there. I think that head scale is feeling much better. Especially once we start to pose this and actually, whoops, get into some asim in our body. I think that'll feel quite a bit better. Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. Let's see here. All right, looks like we got a few more people. Welcome, everybody. How you guys doing? If you're new here, this is the Pixelogic ZBrush channel. Tons of people that stream here. I believe somebody's streaming right after I hop off in a couple hours. If you don't know who I am, my name's Ben, or you can call me Follygon. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. I do a lot of stylized stuff like this guy here. And again, for those that are just joining us, the original 2D, if you guys want to check out the concept artist, is by someone by the name of Lily BZ over on DeviantArt. She's got a bunch of really cool stuff. I'm going to see if I can carry this form all the way down and kind of wrap around here. And I think that's going to be the point at which I get that jaw to turn. And I can kind of fade this out and transition that a little bit better, but I think this feels quite a bit more integrated to me. I try to find a lot of these internal forms that I can kind of connect up. I think it just feels really nice. Especially if you can find like an external shape, an external silhouette, and turn that into an internal form. It always feels really nice. Specifically, like for some examples, let's see. I have a base mesh in here in ZBrush that I created a while back. For instance, one line that I like to look for in my faces. So I think it's pretty obvious that, you know, we typically have this line running from your nose up and around your brow, right? It's a pretty common kind of connective line for this internal silhouette, this shape. I find that it's really nice though if you can continue that line and either wrap it around into your cheek and kind of create like a little bit of a like a superhero mask kind of thing. Or what I often like to do is take that line and bring it all the way down to the corner of my mouth, and that tends to be a good place for the form to transition at. So these are the kind of things that I look for when I'm sculpting and getting into that more of a refinement phase for some of my larger shapes. So this line in particular, you know, separating this kind of main shape of the head, we got this volume of the cheek, feeling really good, right? And that kind of wraps around there, and it is an external silhouette shape, but if we can wrap that and also get that entire form to kind of create this internal hit here, I think that would be really nice. So let's work on this for a little bit. Kind of adjust that some more. I think we can make this work really well. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing underneath my jaw, so I'll move my light so I can see a little bit better. So I try to explain as much as I can about, you know, what's going through my head while I'm working, but if I do something a little bit too fast or I say some mumbo jumbo that doesn't really make any sense, just yell at me and I'll try to explain it a little bit better. Sinan says, what is that Maya-like sub-window? A plugin? Question mark. I'm not sure what sub-window you're referring to. What's sub-window? The image? Spotlight? This is called Spotlight, which is up in your texture palette. Allows me to import all sorts of images for, at least in this case, reference, or for projecting textures or form. Diego, what's going on, man? Welcome, welcome. How you doing? Alright. So there's that. Feels a little strong to me. I don't know about you guys. Ian, what's up, man? How are you doing? Let's see. Let's take our standard brush with RGB on, and I don't know exactly where I want this paint to go. Let's just kind of slap it on there. That's something Bob Ross would say, right? Just slap that paint on there. Slap of the paint. Alright, and I have that kind of separation right where this form creases. And I feel like this has gotten a little bit too soft as I've continued working here, so let me come back through and just tighten that back up a little bit. Gotta be careful around here because pinch brushes can be pretty destructive. I'm using one of the mech cut brushes. Let's see here, from the profile, this feels far too thick, so what we'll do, I'll probably get an additional hit somewhere around here, and that's where that form should transition. So I'm going to mask this off and adjust the thickness here a little bit. And I'm not going to keep this super hard line. This is kind of temporary. I do not speak emoji. I'm sorry. I wish I did. Well, I'm not fluent in emoji. I speak a little emoji, just a little. Alright, let's take that kind of grayish color and just bring it up through here. By default, your smooth brush does have RGB activated, so you can kind of transition between colors a little bit if you want to play with that, kind of gradate between a few. I don't like the effect that it gives very often. It just kind of depends on the situation. If anything, I'd use it at a very, very low setting. Turn your RGB intensity down quite a bit. Then I think it gives a nice kind of feathered look. Stadius, welcome. How are you doing? The T-pose button. Oh, are you talking about this? This submenu, Maya-like submenu. This might be what you're talking about. This is just a custom menu that I have made. You can create custom menus under Preferences, turn on Enable Customize under Config, and then go to Custom UI, and as long as you have this toggled, you'll be able to create a custom menu. And then all I've done is set up a hotkey for a menu. To set up a hotkey for a menu, you have to make sure that Enable Customize is turned off, and you can hold Control and Alt and click anything in ZBrush. In ZBrush, if you look up in the top left-hand corner, I'll do it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. It'll say, press any key to assign a custom hotkey to this. So all you have to do is click on a menu, let's say the Z plugin menu. And it'll ask me to input a hotkey, so I'll do that now. Hotkey successfully assigned. And now it's just opening that menu, wherever my mouse is. So that's all that is. A custom hotkey assigned to a custom menu. Pretty neat. I believe I have a tutorial somewhere for that on my YouTube channel, but that's a pretty quick rundown on that. Doing well. Awesome, awesome. Will that work for the brush focus size as well? I'm not sure what you're referring to. You can press the S key, I know, to pull up draw size. I typically just hold the spacebar because there's a bunch more options in here that I use pretty frequently without moving my hand all the way up here, God forbid. So I typically just use the spacebar. I find it to be a lot faster. Plus your mouse is conveniently hovered right over the brush size option when you hold the spacebar. See how it's right over draw size? Except if you do it down here, because the menu can't fit on screen, so it moves it. So I typically, just space click and drag immediately. I just do it really fast. It's just something I'm used to doing. All right. Baby shark do 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 do. Yeah, I know. Don't. That's my version. You know that the brush size is the square brackets? Yeah, I mean you can do that just like in Photoshop, or up here, like I said, or S key. S. Size. Alright. So I think that's enough kind of quick cleanup in the face. If anything, this transition here is a little too tight. So let me come through here and just soften that transition. All right, on to our paw, our front paw, or our dog hand, as I've been referring to it. All right, so for this, I want to get a little bit more of that gesture. What I intended here initially was to get, it's kind of got this rounded squared off shape to it. I mean, it has a very clear kind of plane change at the top and bottom of those fingers, so I tried to get that in. This is just kind of the block out version of that, so at this point I would probably merge this into my arm, as it is a separate mesh right now, and start shaping that up a little bit better. From what I can tell, we'd probably want to get quite a bit more kind of bend there. I mean, we can start kind of positioning this now. Definitely not necessary, but we can start heading in that direction. More so just want to focus on blending this into the arm and shaping this up a little bit better. Alright. And while we're zoomed in here on the hand, I'm gonna plop you up on the side of the screen there. Hang out there for a little bit. The concept, again, is by Lily BZ. You can find her over on DeviantArt. Got a ton of cool stuff. Alright, let's grab our soft, sharp brush. Whoops, wrong way. I'm gonna get a bit more of a separation between some of these. So exaggerate some of this just a little bit. And then I'm going to merge this into my wrist. It's a little bit easier to do this with the current geometry that I have, just because the edge loops flow in that direction. So it just makes this a little bit more easy. Dynamesh geometry isn't incredibly difficult to work with. As long as the resolution's there, you should be fine, but just for a little bit more of an assist there, we'll do that. And we're getting a little kind of wirbly through here. Just a few nudges with the move brush. And for the bottom of this, it's not looking very paw or fin-like, in my opinion. So let's see if we can change that. Let's try to break up the symmetrical curve that we got going on here. Just a little bit. No problem, Sinan. Hopefully that helps you out, man. Let's see. Let's go ahead and merge that together with our arm. So if you're blocking out shapes, similar to how I'm doing this, typically what I recommend is working on your polygon islands a little bit more to make sure that you're getting to a place where, let's delete this other side, where things are syncing up. Whoa, thought we were gonna crash. Where things are syncing up well. So I always try to avoid, like, for instance, where these are kind of syncing up. Anything like this is a pretty subtle change in direction, but even stuff like that, I just want to blend this in here. And even though we're getting a little bit of a hit here, kind of in that crevice, we'll be able to clean that up once we remesh. Alright, let's take that and run a Dynamesh. Probably increase the res a little bit, up to like 500 or so. And just because it's a little tough to see what's going on, I'm going to switch my material. We can turn that back on later. Typically while I'm sculpting and just trying to figure out form, it's easier for me to do that without all the polypane and materials in the way. This is actually another good instance of me taking a form, some kind of internal shape, and trying to continue it on into the rest of the shape. So like we looked at the jaw, how we had that line wrapping around the cheek, continuing along to the jaw. There's another instance of me taking a line and just kind of carrying it through to the rest of the form to have like a nice break there in the silhouette. And we'll probably soften that out quite a bit, but for starters, I definitely like to bring some of that stuff into it. Alright, let's go ahead and do a quick remesh on this. Salman, what's going on? How are you doing? Welcome. Alright, let's do a couple quick projections. Do one more here. Alright. And I got a few leftover pieces of geo from earlier. So let's start positioning this just so we can help get this a little bit closer to where it's going to need to be for posing. Anything that you can do in the earlier stages that's going to help you once you do start the posing process, anything that you can do to help you get there a little bit faster, I think is nice. So I'm going to move these arms in. Going to continue to clean that up a little bit, get a nice curve and nice hit there, like that. And let's see, how are we gonna do this? It looks like our pollen needs to be actually quite a bit larger. Let's just rotate this up here. Get a nice rotation point. And obviously quite a bit more bend in the bow. And we're gonna need quite a bit of bend here. Typically when I get some really extreme bends in the elbow, I find it easier to just split that shape depending on how extreme that bend is, just because this can be very difficult to work with, and if you start to smooth it out, you're gonna end up with quite a few problems. So I find it nice to split that off sometimes. I'm gonna make the upper arm here much shorter. I have to probably do a lot of squashing to get that where we want it. Let's see, let's just get the hand where we want it first. And let's try scaling up the whole thing first, till we get that paw feeling. You know what? Let's just go like a little bit here, and then I think most of the thing that's bothering me scale-wise is just in the depth. And that might be a little bit too much, but we'll leave it for now. I'd rather have too much than not enough. Check the shapes in our body. Get a nice curve here. Whenever you're kind of countering a curve against another curve in a shape like this, so we're curving down on one side, and then we're curving down on the other. Never let the apex of that curve, or what's called the hit or break of that curve, which for this side would be here, and this side, whoops, be here. Never let those be parallel to each other. Makes the shape feel really boring. So that's why we have the apex of those offset quite a bit. And also it's just kind of what happens naturally in anatomy for a lot of different shapes. If you look at like the calf and how the shape of that is not perfectly parallel to each other for the apex of those curves. It's everywhere in nature. Alright. So let's see, let's get some more twist in our wrist so that we can get this closer to the angle that we need it. Oh, getting there. And we also need it to be just closer up to the face. I'll probably, so once we go into posing, he's got his chin like tucked a little bit into his belly. So there, you know what, I'll probably slide that head back a little bit and try to get a little bit more form around here, because when that's happening, see how we're getting some folds up here? I think that's gonna be a lot closer than what I have it right now. So we can maybe do a little bit of that right now and just start kind of getting that where it needs to go. I think I'm going to be tilting the head down and sliding the head back a little bit. I think that'll also help in that. So we'll wait to do some of that. Alright, so from here, let's go ahead and just fix some of this garbage. Make sure that's still reading well. I feel like our arm now feels very thick, which isn't exactly what we want. Probably want to go quite a bit shorter here, in all honesty. Let's see if we can just do this real quick with the big move brush. And try angling that out a bit more, away from the body. And we're kind of breaking some stuff, but that's alright. You gotta break stuff to fix it. Especially when it comes to posing. If the underlying major form is not working, no amount of detail will help you. Alright, so that's definitely feeling a lot closer, but I think we're just missing some volume in our torso, and we also want to sync up that polygon island between our bicep or deltoid, I'll just say upper arm combo here, and the torso. So let's try to do that a little bit better than what we have currently. We'll do some blending to get that even better in place, but I think that's probably a good spot for now. I've also been thinking about how I'm going to blend this torso into the head. So he's a shark and a puppy. So, I don't know. We can't really see the neck. A lot of it's just kind of covered up because his jaw's open and his paws are in the way. So a lot of this we're going to have to interpret. I was thinking of doing a proxy merge between these shapes to kind of get an idea of what I wanted to do. If you're not familiar with the idea of a proxy merge, you essentially just duplicate an object and kind of test it out. Delete a lot of what you don't need. So for instance, I'd take this part of the body, merge it into the head, and just run a Dynamesh at this level. Let's increase our res just a little bit. Give it a sec to calculate. Get rid of all this because I don't need it. Get rid of this as well. Dynamesh. And now I can kind of blend between these two segments. So if you guys remember what I was saying about polygon islands, and you want those to sync up really well between your two objects, like here for the leg, down here. Even though this is a separate object, I still have that kind of flowing pretty well into the body. Same thing here for like negative shapes. Unless you're really trying to get that like tight crease there, I recommend doing something like what I'm doing here to like temporarily merge objects together and get a feel for what that would look like. So what I'm going to do is delete some more of that excess. And then clean this up. Slime, what's going on? Waited since your last stream. Good to have you back, man. Can you share your UI? I can, yes. It's actually available on my Gumroad. Gumroad.com/Follygon. I have my brushes, materials, UI, base meshes, courses, all sorts of goodies on there. Here, since I haven't shared this yet, I'll post a link in chat. Gumroad, Gumby, Gumbo, as I call it. All right, let's do a quick projection or two. And I think that connection between the neck is actually, even though that was very dirty, it's actually feeling better to me already. So let's just clean up between these two segments even more. And there we go. Just trying to get a little bit cleaner through there. If we want to extend that up even more, we could do that now, just to make sure that this is feeling good. Let's see. Push that up. Maybe get some more volume back here. Oh no. Kind of like the S curve that we had before. Getting a little snaky up through there. Play with the head a little bit too. And honestly, let's just get rid of some of the volume from the side there. How do you clear the copy that you just made? The copy. What copy did I make? What did I do? I duplicated an object. Is that what you're talking about? I have two subtools. You can delete that with the delete button. Is that what you're talking about? I'm not sure what I did. That you're referring to. Copy. Copiste. Go away, lazy mouse. Oh, it's you. Hey, it's you. I have your stylized female head course. Nice lesson. Well, thanks. Happy that you like it, man. Let's see. You are referring to this one here, the Sculpting a Stylized and Appealing Female Face. That is also there on my Gumby. Gumby.com/Follygon, or commonly known as Gumroad. Alright, so you see how I have this really tight pinch in here? This is something that I like to do to get form to start changing, and then I'll just step down through my subdivs and kind of start to clean that up. So essentially what that does, it gives me a nice hit there. Here. If we look at the cross section of that shape, and now there's a nice peak where that is and where it transitions. So I don't want to give him a fin necessarily. I think that it's kind of like a nice in-between. The reason I don't want to give him a fin is because he's laying on his back, and I mean, I guess he could have a fin, but that wouldn't be very comfortable for him. This is really messy. This is just bothering me. I just put these nostrils in during our stream this morning on my channel, and I don't really like them right now. I'll probably come back and change them a little bit later. I think they get the job done for now. Got our material completely messed up on our body. It's okay. Let me just do a subtool master, fill, material. Whoops, I got solo mode on, so it only did it to that. Let's try that one more time. This will just go through all my objects really quick and fill that in. Did it on accident last night and can't figure out how to clear it. Chris, you were talking about this, I'm guessing. Is this what you're referring to? Got a lot of this going on? Come up here into Layer and click on Clear. So you're accidentally pressing Shift-S, and that just drops a snapshot of your model to your canvas. Control-N is the shortcut to clear that. One of the most common things that people ask. I should have known when you said copy what you were referring to. My bee. All right. Let's mirror this hand over to the other side. I think that just said warning was going to have 600,000 polys. God forbid. 600,000, my goodness. So I think our torso is much wider up here, based on where these hands are. Just trying to get the blend up here a little bit better. I also need to do some more work down here on the legs. These are currently just blocked out really quick, really simple pieces of geometry that I just merged together. So let's work down here for a little bit. Use some clay tubes, fill in some of the form there. Move around with our, well, move brush. And let's take a look at the foot. So we need to do the same thing that we did to our paw. And to do that, I moved it to the center line so that I could work on it symmetrically and save myself some time. So I'll do the exact same thing here. I'll just grab my foot and rotate this, move it to about my center line, and give it a mirror and weld. Let's get the orientation a little bit better. Go a little bit closer. There we go. That's pretty close. Beautiful. Alright, so from here, let's start shaping up our foot to be a little bit closer to what we're seeing in our reference. And then we can start getting our toe beans in. It's a very technical term, by the way. I want to see it finished. It'll be so cute. I want to see it finished as well. Actually, this might help us inform some of the decisions about what we do with our paw. That looks like a really simple, just kind of placed on there shape, so I don't think that'll be too difficult. Let's just trim out the bottom of our foot really quick. Get that nice and planer. Let's see. I got quite a bit of curve going on here just because it's what I was kind of noticing in that shape, which is absolutely fine. And then for the actual paw, the actual toes, I don't know if I want to do this the exact same way that I did up top. I don't know. Maybe we can just try carving in really quick. I don't think this will work the way I exactly want it to. It's because it's hard to control. Let's just start. So just a quick block out of where we want that form to be. I'm going to turn off perspective because it's really annoying when I'm zoomed in close on objects. And I'm going to use my mech cut brush, which is essentially a pinch and dam standard brush combined. And what I love about the pinch brushes is that they have this kind of, the focal shift for it allows the area of effect to kind of wrap that form in, and you end up getting pretty nice shape there. Now our main problem here is that these are a little bit too small on the front of the foot, so let's just try doing a quick scale up here. Actually, this is way too messy to do something like that. So let's fix that. Kyle, what's going on, man? How are you doing? Welcome. Working on some toe beans currently. About to shape these puppies up. Getting that bottom foot. Alright, so I think we're gonna use, I think just the move brush here. I was thinking about just scaling it, but I think that would extend it past where we want it. And I more so just wanted to kind of spread those out a little bit more. And I think I'm just going to delete this. I was going to project it if we needed it, but I really don't think we do. Let's just make sure, kind of scale-wise, that that's feeling okay. I think so. And if we can, let's kind of round this out a bit more on the bottom. Feel a little bit better. For those that do not know, Kyle is the guy who does all the hard work to set up the streams here. So everybody say hi and be nice to Kyle. Kyle's a good guy. Does some good work. Pixo doesn't get enough recognition for all the stuff they do. And I know we all appreciate them, but we don't tell them enough. This foot is too thin. That's what I say here. And for the back, I'll thicken this up just like a little bit. More so what we're gonna do here is, once that leg kind of blends into there, I think that'll start feeling a bit better. It just feels awkward right now because it's just a separate object off by itself. So we'll get that in there. And I want more of a plane change up top here. It's feeling way too rounded. So let's get that going. Get that feeling a bit more flat on top. Doing good. Dig the reference. Yes, Lily BZ over on DeviantArt. Go check her out, everybody. If there's anybody new here that didn't see me pull up the reference earlier. Lily BZ, Lilibz. She's awesome. Got some cool stuff. This is the first of her works that I had ever seen. But she's got a lot of other cool stuff if people are looking for some cool creatures and other, other stuff to make. She has some other characters as well, but I think her creature work is where she really shines. She's got a lot of cool stuff. Alright, let's cut in here along the toes just a bit more. And we can probably slap this on our foot here in a second. I think the overall shape transitioning here just needs to widen out that toe a little bit more. That feels a bit better to me. And I'm sure we'll continue to make changes to this as we go, but I just kind of threw this on the symmetry line just because I can work on it a little bit faster for the major forms here this way, and then break sim and just throw it over here and start working on it some more. So let's do that next. Grab our footsie and loop that there. Beautiful. All very technical terms, of course. This leg lacks volume. Need quite a bit more. I am going to hide all that junk. Let's also get rid of this other one. We're going to do the exact same thing that we did to the arm up top, so a little bit of a repetitive process, but it's necessary. Different shapes though. So I pretty much do the exact same thing when I'm modeling human characters. Same kind of steps. Let's see. Kind of plane that out a bit more. And probably scale that down quite a bit. It's hard to tell with everything else hidden though. Turn on perspective so we can just analyze this a little bit better. And yeah, we'll scale this down quite a bit. These paws look huge in relation to the bottom foot, don't they? It's a little odd. Maybe we can improve upon that a little bit. A little more even. I might scale down the paws up there. The hand paws. How do you... There has to be a... is it like anterior paw? There has to be like a technical term to distinguish between front and back paws, unless it's just literally front and back paws. I guess that would make sense as well. I'm gonna stick with hand paw and foot paw, because that makes sense to me. Alright. Let's slide that back a little bit. And I'm gonna change some more of the volume here in this leg, and then we'll merge these together, much like what we did up top. So let me... Whoa, our subdivs are gone. Let's reconstruct those. And I don't really like the inflate brush too much. I prefer using the move backface masking brush just because it gives me more control. I can kind of pick and choose where I want the inflate to happen. Let's see, that's feeling a bit better to me. Alright, let's go ahead and merge those together, and we'll work on the transitional area here for a little bit. I guess one last thing that I'll do is probably just narrow this down. Just gonna pull in there, make sure that's lining up. Remember what I said about polygon islands matching up? We want those to be as close as we can get them. So this is like way too much if we're looking at the silhouette from this angle. That's just like way too much of a hit there. So we want to bring that in. That's feeling quite a bit better, and that'll be able to be blended even easier once we combine these. So let's do that now. Combine, merge down. Beautiful. And I'll keep those poly groups. Make sure that my poly paint is off so that we can retain those. And we'll do a quick dye mesh. Let's go a little bit higher. And now I'll spend a little bit of time just kind of blending between these. Uh-oh. Oh, thought my pen pressure wasn't working there for a moment. Alright, we'll do a quick remesh here in just a moment after I work on that. But now that I've merged that and kind of blended between there, the silhouette is just feeling so much better. Quick little proportional change. We are good to go. Beautiful. I think that'll do. Alright, let's go ahead and do a quick, whoops, I didn't mean to polygroup all that. I'll do a ZBrush now with keep groups on, and let's do a target poly count of 2000 for this. Essentially, you just need it to retain most of the basic form transitions around that foot where I put in that semi-hard edge, and we should be good. Scarlet, what's going on? It's a very cute concept, yes, I agree. And the sculpt is getting there. Alright, let's just make sure that's retaining all the shapes that we need it to. It looks pretty good to me. There is, you know, some awkwardness in there, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter. It'll get remeshed out later. So very quickly, subdivide plus project. I'll do this maybe like 2 or 3 times. That's plenty. And that last subdiv was probably a little overkill. So there we go. We got our leg, our bottom leg. And now from here we can start cleaning this up even more because we have some subdivs to work from. Subdivs make everything easier. Not everything, but most things. Most things when it comes to cleanup. Alright. From here, let's turn off perspective. I'm just going to mask off the bottom of this foot just a little bit. And I'm going to try this really quick, just skew this up and see if that helps enough. There's more of just like an awkward roundness, warbliness to the surface up here that I want to get rid of without smoothing here, because that'll destroy most of that form. I think that'll do. That looks pretty good to me. All right, beautiful. Let's apply our block out color there with the correct material, of course. And voila. Let's see. Let's scale this up all together. And I'm just gonna slide that up a bit. I think I'm going to be shortening this dude's body just a wee bit. And because we have subdivision levels, we'll have to use the Subtool Master to mirror our object across the x-axis. We could delete the subdivs or freeze them and then do that, but I think this is a little bit faster. Especially now that it doesn't create an extra subtool. In older versions of ZBrush, it used to create an extra tool for you that I would always go in and delete because it would just bog down my files. I'm glad that they changed the way it works in the most recent version. It's very nice, so good job, guys. I like that feature. And maybe just change the angle here a little bit. I don't know. Play with that. It's really kind of flooped out there. Oh my gosh, my sister's dog. So I think I didn't post a link to this on ArtStation, or an image of this on ArtStation. Let me find this really quick. So my sister has 2 golden retrievers, and where is it? Oh, I never posted an image of it because it was for a Christmas present. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So my sister's dog, one of my sister's dogs, cannot sit normally. It lacks the ability to sit or lay normally. If you guys know what splooting is, I'm sure you do, but for those that don't, it's where a dog's back legs, splooting God, whoops. Splooting God, yeah, it's where a dog lays with its back legs out behind it. My sister's dog, which is a golden retriever, let's just look at cute dogs for the rest of our time today, cannot sit normally. It can only lay like this. This is the only way the dog can lay. I saw it lay normally once, and its legs were like shaking, and then they just slid out, and it automatically did a sploot. So there's a sploot for those that don't know what splooting is. But yes, that's what this makes me think of. That's how my sister's dog lays all the time, but on his belly, not displaying his junk for the world to see. Although I'm sure they do that from time to time as well. All right, let's do a little bit of cleanup up here. Make sure that that's feeling good. And I would like to merge this fin into the tail. So I did something that I thought was pretty interesting down here. This is something that I do pretty frequently. I essentially split off this bottom section for the fin. This is just a thin piece of geometry, and I've rounded off this area for like this kind of bony part of the fin. And essentially we're going to merge that together and then fill in the form between that separation. And I feel like that it's just a really nice way for me to kind of separate my form and really work on the most simplistic part of this. Keeps it easier for me mentally to split things off into extra parts and pieces. Sometimes it can get a little much depending on how complex your shape is, and sometimes it's better to just kind of do it all as one. But I find for most things like this, it's nice to just kind of split it up and break it down into its most simple shape. So now we have two meshes that I'm dynameshing together. Maybe. Beautiful. And now I can probably get enough of a blend between this at this resolution just with my smooth brush. So look at that. We get a nice kind of bony landmark here flowing into the shape of our fin, which we can continue to adjust. And we get a really nice clean shape down here. Probably transition up here a little bit better. Oh, we're getting like a little kind of extra bump right there, so we'll have to get rid of that. And we're getting that down here as well. That won't be too hard to fix though. And what I find is nice for stuff like this, using like a trim dynamic brush while holding Alt, and you can kind of fill in between that area a little bit. I find that nice, and then just give it a quick smooth. And I don't know, maybe we can sit here and thicken up some of this a little bit more, but I think I'll wait until I get some subdivs to do that. So the geometry is very thin down here. That's kind of the only major concern here, so let me thicken that up really fast, just a little bit, with move back face masking. Ron says, how would I add additional area to an unmasked area using the gizmo tool? How would you add additional area to an unmasked area using the gizmo tool? Are you talking about this type of masking where I forget what it's called, but it follows the line of your, I think it's called topological masking. It essentially follows the line of your topology. So I got some really poopy topology, but here, let's do this. Let me know if that's what you're talking about. Make Polymesh 3D. You can do this with your transpose line as well. It existed first with the transpose line. So Control, click and drag down the length of your object. There we go. See how it's kind of following that edge loop? I don't know why it's being, I don't know why it's favoring the one side over the other. But is that what you're talking about? Yes, but two different polygroups. Yep, no problem. So I might be able to do this very quickly. Let me make sure I'm doing this correct, if I remember correctly. So you can Control, click and drag. Oof. Let's just go back to this since it's lower poly. I'll add in some more subdivs. Cool. Control, click, drag. Sure, beautiful. That was it. Yes, okay. I don't know why this geometry is being so stupid. Sorry. For a better demonstration, give me 2 seconds. Don't know why that cylinder is being weird. Let me remesh this and then we'll work a lot easier on this geometry. and it's a little bit more complicated, so we'll actually have a reason to use it. Essentially, you're going to draw out your first one holding the control key. For people that don't know how to do this, just grab your transpose line or your 3D gizmo, and you can do some topological masking. So I have my transpose line here, I'm holding the control key, and I'm clicking and dragging down the length of my object. Actually, the reason that probably wasn't working is because I didn't have symmetry on. Then you can add an additional mask to this by holding the control and shift key, and then clicking and dragging and doing the exact same thing. So you can do this by also holding, you can also use Alt to do negative masks with this as well. There's a bunch of different stuff that you can kind of do in combination with this. What I recommend though, because that's really kind of finicky to work with, I recommend using the mask lasso. I find that the mask lasso is a really nice tool. So for instance, I can just control, click, and drag out a quick lasso over, multiple different areas and create all sorts of masks. And all you have to do to turn a mask into a polygroup is press Control W. And if you wanted those to be separate polygroups, you could just Control Shift and click them to select them, and then go into your polygroups menu and click on Auto Groups. Then you got all sorts of polygroups going on. But I'm not going to do that because I don't need all those. But hopefully that answers your question and helps you out. Let me know. And I will very quickly project up some form on this while I wait. Shiloh, what's going on? I thought ZBrush just closed on me. I was like, what? Just crashed out of the blue. Sometimes you have that happen where it just disappears. That's always fun. It's very rare that that one happens to me though. Seriously though, the most recent version of ZBrush is so much more stable than any other version I've used in the past. It is wonderful. I love it. For those that are still on those older versions, what are you doing? Get that upgrade. It's free. And it's a lot more stable. Alright. I think that feels a lot better to me. Especially now that we got these subdivs, we can kind of clean up down here a little bit more. Let's see. I'm actually using the alternative smooth function down here. If you're not familiar with that, you start smoothing with the shift key and then let go of shift while you're still smoothing. And instead of being so strong and destructive, it is a little bit of kind of like an averaging algorithm. At least that's how I like to think of it. That's how it works the way I use it. It's just a little bit nicer. A good example, if you're trying to figure out like when to use it, try to create like a really sharp piece of geometry and then smooth that out with the normal smooth brush, and then try the alternative smooth brush on it, and you'll get, that's probably like where it's most noticeable, at least for me. See the difference in that. Adorable! I would say we're probably pretty close to getting to a point where we could start posing this. Alright, let's clear you and get a new little puppy friend watching over us up here. Oops, got the wrong object selected. Then make this a bit shorter. Something like that. Yes, no problem, Ron. Hopefully that works out for you. So I won't start sculpting any of the folds around here until we break symmetry, obviously. If we start making symmetrical folds, it's gonna look really awkward. Plus, because of the shape of the body here, the little bend or tilt there, at about the rib cage, or I guess, do shark puppies have rib cages? Do sharks have rib cages? I don't know. Now I'm curious. I'm guessing yes, right? Yeah, a little bit. Some kind of, I figured they had to have some kind of protection around their vital organs, or maybe those are just the gill bones, of course. So maybe not a rib cage necessarily. But that's essentially, at least in humans, where about that bend takes place. Because obviously your daggum bones don't bend. That wouldn't make much sense. I'm noticing in the face that I think we can get a little bit more narrow coming down from the corner of the mouth. So I think that's something that I would like to do before we get into posing. Any kind of big changes that I can make now in the overall character before breaking symmetry is typically something that you want to take care of. You're going to break stuff when you start posing your character. That's almost inevitable, but it's good to make those big changes now while you still can. So I'm going to go into Transpose Master and make a couple changes here to our face. Let's change our material. And I'm going to turn off perspective because I find it easier to do this stuff without that on. How am I going to do this? So I'll do that masking, that topological masking here a little bit. Just because it's hard for me to get in and mask in that jaw because it's really tight in there. I can get a little bit, but I find that this is one of those cases where topological masking is actually very nice to have. Well, we need to invert this mask. Do that real quick. Alright, so I want that jaw to get more narrow as it's coming down. Whoops. Let's make sure backface masking is not on. I always leave that on by accident. And we are scooting our top row of teeth as well. That's not what we want. Okay, there, I think we're good. Alright, we'll try that one more time. I just want to get a little bit more narrow coming down there. Beautiful. Alright. From the profile, I'm actually pretty okay with that. I don't really like the hard edge transition that I have going through here. I'll probably soften that even more, but that's feeling pretty good to me. I feel like the top of the head, not sure if it's too small or what. Definitely something here that I would like to look at. A little bit of the shape, and I think a little bit of the height as well. So I think what I'm going to do to correct that, try to pull up a little bit here. I feel like that distance just isn't quite where it needs to be. And then I'm gonna try, without breaking everything, squaring out the head ever so slightly. Because I think the major hit of that rounded form starts to turn a little bit too early. Right through here. Let's make sure that we're not breaking everything now. Turn on perspective and just kind of rotate around here. Make sure this is reading well from all angles still. Thank you. Will there be a tutorial of creating Pikachu? I'm not sure if anybody else is working on a Pikachu. I am not working on a Pikachu currently. I don't know. I will have to check up on the Pixo channel, see if somebody's making a Pikachu. But not I. Not I. Although now I wish I was sculpting a Pikachu. Thanks. Let's see. Quick question. You are French, so sorry for your English. As long as I can get the general understanding of what you're trying to say, I think we're fine. I often see 3D modelers reproducing existing drawings. Are you able to draw art like this? No, I'm not. I have the impression that there is a gap between designer and 3D modeler. You are correct. As if the 3D modelers were just doing that and the designers were doing the sketching. Am I right? It's often the case, yes. So there are many 3D artists that are also amazing 2D artists. But at the same time, there are also a lot of amazing 2D artists that are not great concept artists. That's why the role of concept artist exists separately from, someone who's just a really good 2D artist, a really good sketch artist, a really good digital painter. It's because concepting actually exists separately from the act of doing the art. Yes, it's integrated and it requires you to be able to do the actual art process, but it exists a little bit separately. So because of that, I don't concept out my own characters very often. I'm very much a kind of all eggs in one basket kind of person when it came to 3D, and the reason why I was able to progress, I think, at a relatively quick rate in my digital art skills, because I kind of started from nothing not too long ago, was because I decided that I was going to, a little bit into my career, I decided that I was going to focus on stuff for physical production, and I think I've kind of benefited from that. I think it's important to specialize, but yes, you are correct in your assumption that a lot of people that work, in the 3D art industry, I say industry very lightly, but people who work on film, games, toys, whatever, actual products, a lot of the time the people that are producing the content in 3D are not actually designing the stuff. That's not always the case, but I would say a majority of the time that is indeed the case. If you're going to be working on some project in some studio somewhere, you are probably going to be handed a design and said, make this, make it like this, and make it look exactly like this. And if you don't make it like this, we're not going to hire you, or you can't work here anymore. If you're already hired here, now you're done, get out. So that's kind of like the basic workflow. But there are smaller studios, of course, where that won't always be the case, where people wear many hats and do a lot of different things. It just kind of depends. I think generals are typically pretty bad to state. That's why I say that it depends. Alright, let's T-pose this guy back. Check out all these different changes that we've made. Nuclear Dan, what's going on? Or should I say nuclear Dan? No, I won't do that. What's going on? Nuclear. Thank you for the answer. Well, no problem. Happy to help. Whoa. Don't freeze up on us. Alright, so this is just feeling way too sharp through here. If you're asking, Shiloh, for like career reasons, you're kind of trying to figure out what you want to do, I am of the mindset that it's always a good idea to specialize. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a more generalist type of role. That's not what I'm saying at all, but all the people that, I think of in their respective roles of people that I look up to and people that I follow, typically do one thing really, really well. And sure, they can do, you know, a lot of other parts of the process, but they have one thing that they're really well known for. And that's why I kind of think it's important. And not everybody shares that opinion. Like I said, everybody's got an opinion, right? We all know the saying. I feel like we're lacking a lot of depth in the face from the profile, and I'm wondering if I can get some of that in there. So as I rotate around, especially right here, I feel like we could push that a little bit more. What do you guys think? It's a good idea to do this stuff, like I said, before we break Sim, because after we do that, it just creates a lot more work for us. Going back to school, we'll have fun. Get smart. Stay in school, kids. Says the guy that looks like he's in high school. And Johan, what's up? ZBrush is the most awesome 3D software in the universe. I would have to agree. I love me some ZBrush. Alright, let's see. Let's see if we can fix some of our depth issues here in the face. I'm just gonna scale this back ever so slightly. Daily and nightly. And then here, get a really soft mask. Make sure that that's completely masked off. I'm gonna try, without breaking everything. Like I said, that's the important part. Don't break everything. Try doing some little adjustments here and there. Try to really bump up the depth here. Alright, how's that feeling? Whoop, I need to be paying attention to the clock. Alright, we got about a half hour left, so I think what we're going to be doing for that last half hour, just answering any last minute questions. Oh, let go. And getting this guy ready for posing. Which I will probably be doing on my channel tomorrow. So if you guys are around, definitely come hang out and ask some more questions. Or just lurk in the background, either or. Both are fine. Alright. Let's see. Kind of work on this area. On the form change here. I'm just noticing a little bit of a hit, a little bit more of a hit here than what I have present. I just kind of have this rounded shape here. If I can get more of a separation of form here, that would be awesome. Kind of make these a little bit more distinct. I think that's fine. Running down the back. Kind of gets weird here. Most of the stuff on the back will never be seen, so we don't want to spend a ton of time there. So from the profile, or from the bottom up view, get that rounded out now. And I might just kind of dip in a little bit more around where these arms and legs are going to go, just to make room for those, and then once we blend them in, we'll probably get that back out. Alright, let's do the rest of the poly paint on here. There's a really interesting kind of like breakup between the dark and lighter section of the... It's mainly on the belly, it's not really on the face at all, but it's got like this really nice kind of textured look to it, and I'd like to get that in. We can maybe do a quick experimentation to see if we can figure that out, what that will look like. We don't have to get it perfect tonight. Might be fun to play with though. Might have to do some angle changing here to our leg to get that to work a little bit better. I'm just gonna leave that split there. Play with that a little bit here in a second. Much like when sculpting, when you're starting to kind of figure out your poly paint, your colors, your textures, whatever you're working on, you really just want to keep it simple in the beginning. Just get the block out first and then go from there. I don't really see a separation on the paw up front, so I guess we can kind of leave that, or if anything, like maybe we can get like a little bit of breakup underneath the arm or something. Alright, let's experiment with how we could do that kind of texture breakup. I guess we can do it down here on the tail where we see it. What is your channel, or what is your schedule, your channel and Pixelogic? Asks Ron. You can just Google Follygon and you'll find all of my stuff. I stream on the Pixelogic ZBrush channel here, which is where we are right now, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. EST or 3 p.m. Pacific time, which is what they have on their schedule. I'm on the East Coast though, so that's me. Shark with a neck looks strange. Well, thank you. Thank you, Fahrenheit. Or, yes, that is Fahrenheit. Shilu says, you're 100% specialized in 3D. You can own a drawing to model it as you hear it. Not sure about the translate. I'm not sure about the translate either. You can own a drawing to model it as you hear it. I'm not sure what you mean. But I do concept stuff in 3D. I just don't concept stuff in 2D. So I'll jump right into ZBrush and start sculpting, essentially. I can draw a mean stick person. Alright. Getting some weird stuff there. So, I don't know how we're gonna do this. I would say we could use a texture map and I would be totally fine with doing that. But I think I would prefer to just try to get this just with some like hand painting. And honestly, it's probably just gonna be a lot of kind of being a little messy around this edge. But doing that kind of both directions a little bit. So we start to get kind of a nice break up there. And then what I'm seeing is it's got some spots like on the other side, like some little additional points here and there to And maybe we can play with that. I think that's kind of looking cool. And it's really easy to do. It took 5 seconds. So I think with some more variation and maybe being a little bit more specific with the shapes that we're creating, we can make something really cool. This was all just kind of done with the standard brush very quickly. I don't know, I think I like the, I'm just kind of experimenting right now. I think I like the larger soft brush more so. Than the other way around. And I think we could, to like make that a little bit more distinct, I'm kind of doing it in a smaller area. Like if we can increase the width there, I think that would be cool. So something like that. Starting to feel a bit closer. Honestly, just getting some more complexity in there, I think, is just helping out. Perfect. Then all we have to do is kind of carry that up. So the reason I don't want to do too much of this right now is because the polygons are going to stretch later and it's going to mess up a lot of this. So it's not really worth me doing a lot of it. But I think just kind of experimenting and figuring out what we want to do for later is very useful. Plus, if I just like do this really quick, we can get some decent kind of texturing going on. Am I painting on UVs? No, this is poly paint. No, I would not UV an object when I'm not finished with it. Especially when it's going to have other geometry combined into it. No, you can, poly paint is just vertex color. Alright, I think that is a pretty good kind of block out for that. Whoops, wrong brush. Just get an idea of what we want to do there. We got our beautiful little smiley face down here. Okay, maybe we can do a bigger one. That's not disturbing at all. You can own the model to draw it like you want. I'm not sure. Not sure I'm understanding. I'm sorry. If somebody speaks both French and English here, maybe they can help us out. Your English is not so bad, no. I can understand you, but I'm not understanding the more complex thing that you were saying above. Can you own the model to draw it like you want? I don't know. I do not know. I'm sorry. Alright, let's do some more cleanup up here in the ears. I'm not sure if you mean, like, do I own this model that I'm making? Like, yeah, I mean, it's mine. I made it. I don't know if that's what you're saying. But I think that's pretty obvious. This isn't my design. That's why I've pointed out Lily BZ's DeviantArt channel. So she can get credit for the awesome work that she's done. Ooh, I want to see something with these eyes. I have an idea here. So there's this material in ZBrush called the Jelly Bean material that I really like. I don't think it'll work with the... Well, you know what? It might. So what I like to do with the Jelly Bean material is go into the modifiers and crank up the ambient color. And yeah, I don't think it's going to give me the effect that I want here. It's really good for like gemstones if you crank up that ambient a lot. But I think the specularity of this is not exactly what I want. Yeah, not going to give me quite the effect I wanted. I just kind of very quickly hand painted these and they get the job done. They're just like a little bit on the flat side. What I'll probably do is maybe try to get like a... you know what, I'll probably hand paint this minus the specular highlight up here that I put, and then actually get a real specular highlight in there for the render. I don't typically like to paint in shadows and highlights too often in my work because I think it gets overdone really easily. If it's something that's going to be 3D printed, I think it can look really cool, or something that's for production, it can look really cool. If it's like done right, most of the time though, it just feels really heavy-handed and overdone. So I think we are in a pretty good place now to jump into posing. For those that are unfamiliar with the Transpose Master plugin, which we've been using to make proportional adjustments to multiple subtools at once, we're actually going to use that for posing our character here, which I'll be doing on my channel tomorrow. I think we're at a pretty good place to stop for those that are joining us. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Be sure to click that follow button down below for the Pixelogic channel. Check out all the links below. There should be a link to the official ZBrush Discord channel and all that good stuff. All the stuff here gets put up on their YouTube channel after it's done. So no worries if you're joining us late and want to come and check out some of the other stuff that's going on here. It all gets uploaded, so no worries. Again, you can find me just by Googling Follygon or going to my website. I have links to all my stuff there. I stream on Twitch. I have a YouTube channel. I got an art station. I got all the things. So check me out. I'm on the internet too, just like everybody else. Let's see, some last minute questions before we bounce. Can you model it the way you want? Can you make it the way you want? I think that might be what you mean. Yes, I can model this however I want. I don't have to make this exactly the way it appears in this concept. I can do whatever I want. I want to stick as closely to the design as I possibly can though, because I think it's a cool design, and I want to, you know, if I'm just doing something like this, I want to pretty much practice my ability to replicate objects in 3D and capture the appeal of something like this. It's not easy to do, so I try to practice it as much as I can. I have not really aligned anything with the image this entire time I've been sculpting, so more of just kind of working on my eye, my ability to see form, which is also not something that's super easy. I'm gonna give this guy some eyebrows while we sit here and answer some more questions before we leave, because he's got some teeny weeny eyebrows up here that I kept forgetting to put in, so we'll do that real quick. But yeah, I don't have to do that. I can model this, you know, however I want. I can steal a bunch of ideas from a million different places and combine them and try to make something new. That's what everybody else does when they create something new, so probably wouldn't be too different from that. I also do some original stuff as well. All right, let's see. Yes. I think I answered your question well. How would you have to fill in the gaps unless they drew in more angles? So, for something like this, I'm using fundamental concepts for translating something from 2D to 3D. There are a lot of these, stuff like thinking about objects and how they taper, thinking about stuff like straights versus curves, thinking about hits and breaks, and just revolving a shape in 3D. There's a lot of these different fundamentals. I'm actually working on a course right now that kind of goes through what I believe are all these fundamentals, and if that's something that you're interested in, I'll have more info on that in the future. But I am currently working on that day and night, trying to finish it up as quickly as I can. It'll be a course that is more of a class with like live elements to it. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, just follow me on the internet somewhere and you'll hear about it in the future. Let's crease these up. Now, if I were making this model for a client, which this is not, but I have some other stuff that I'm working on, stuff like that, you know, you might be able to like suggest something to a client and say, hey, what about this? But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Here's the thing that we want you to make. Now make it. Do good. Make it look like this. Let me give that a quick black color, and I think just make these a little bit more thin. Looks really good from looking at the reference image. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I think I'll just mask off this inner edge really quick and then call her a night after I obviously thin this out. So again, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out. Hopefully you've learned something new. Hopefully at least one thing. I don't know. Here, for those that didn't learn something new tonight. Did you know? If you press Shift M, it's the hotkey to activate your magnifying glass. Wow, crazy. And then you can go into your preferences. I cannot see with this on. and adjust all sorts of crazy stuff in here, like the radius or the zoom. Wow, crazy, I know. Or the curvature and get like a fisheye. Or the fade so it like gradates out a little bit more. All sorts of crazy stuff. Isn't that fun? There. Now most people have learned something new tonight. Alright. I think that will be good for now, and I'll do some more work on this guy next time over on my channel, which is just twitch.tv/Follygon with an underscore at the end. I stream Tuesday through Friday at noon EST, and on Fridays I actually do live critiques. We've been having a lot of fun with those. If you guys want to get stuff critiqued live on stream, all you have to do is shoot me an email to follygon@gmail.com, and I will take a look at your Z tool. I prefer Z tools if you can send those. OBJs are fine, preferably not ZBrush projects because they're really big. But yeah, send that in and include some info about what you want me to look at, and we'll do a critique live on stream. Other than that, I got some other links if you just go to my website, follygon.com, or I'll just share a link here very quickly to my Gumroad, where I have some tutorials on there. I have base meshes that I use quite often, some brushes, materials, my UI, which somebody was asking about before, as well as some other little goodies and doodads in here that I think you'll find pretty helpful. So again, that's gumroad.com/Follygon. I am Follygon, or Ben, whichever one works. And again, thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Beautiful, beautiful little puppy. And one last time, again, the concept artist here is Lily BZ. Check her out over on DeviantArt. Cool, cool, cool. If you missed the critique on Friday, it does go up on my YouTube channel, so no worries if you end up missing that, if you can't make it. You guys have a wonderful night, and look forward to... Who's next? I believe somebody else is streaming tonight, right? Who we got? Ara. Ara's doing some mech stuff, that's right. I believe I saw his last stream, or the one before that. So look forward to that. That is going to be in a couple hours. And with that, I will leave you guys there. I'll see you next time.